Hey grinders, Silvermort here. I've had a few questions about Shai skills on my Twitch live streams. So I figured to go ahead and make a video and go over the Shai skills here. Alright, let's go ahead and get started here. The first skill we're going to take a look at here is Swing Swing. This is just using your left mouse button primarily to get MP back. I don't find myself using this skill that often, but it's as simple as left click. You can do forward left click. That'll do a little small jump forward and smack your target. Another fun one you can do with this, just for amusing yourself, is if you run forward, jump, and then left click, you'll do a little jump hit here. You can even do it, as you jump over your target and things. Fun little skill. I don't find myself using it that often. I don't generally want to be up in the face of targets like this. But it's, it's part of your tool set, something to remember you've got. All right, taking a look at next here. So we just have Evasion. Every class has this, nothing different. Just shift and directional key, and you'll dodge out of the way. Costs a little bit of stamina. All right, nothing fancy there. Next up, we have Hop. Hop is another movement skill for us. See, this will be the shift and the directional. This sort of overrides our Evasion. And while we do this, you're going to notice we get a small movement speed buff. This gives a little bit of movement. Also give us invincibility. That's what we're looking for. Invincibility while we're going through the movement here. There's also a small cooldown on this. There's about a 3-second cooldown, so you can't continually do this. If you just keep doing it, it's going to default down to Evasion, and that's where you're going to be at for that. So we do their dash. You can see a difference there in the distance that we move while it's on cooldown. All right, this also becomes part of our movement skill sets. So a common movement pattern will be if we dash and then left click, that becomes our movement skill. So dash, left. So there we go. That's how we'll do our basic movements between packs if we're grinding or trying to keep up with our friends out doing our PvE. All right, next up is Tuck and Roll. Now this is an important one to remember because this gives us an attack speed buff. So this is up and F. We're also going to give us a bit of super armor while we do this. So if we up in F key, we'll do a little forward roll. This is going to give us a attack speed buff. Looks like I don't have my buffs on, so let's turn these on so we can see these. Okay, so forward roll. Here we go. Now we can see we've got an attack speed buff. A 20% attack speed buff. I typically mix this in with my normal grinding skills. So, I might start off the fight, do a roll, start dancing around. Now I've got my attack speed buff. If I dash in, I've got my movement speed buff as well. Now we're all set up. We got our basic buffs going. Next up, we have Go Away. So this is a kick. This is another one that I don't use very often. It's got good MP generation on it, and it can knock your targets down. I find that it's a pretty weak CC overall, though. So there we go. Just walk up and kick them. It's a little more helpful in PvP if somebody gets too close, but honestly, if you're a Shai in PvP, you're not attacking anyway. You're going to be defensive, holding back, using your songs to buff your fellow teammates and your stuns to keep other players at bay. Where we are not DPS powerhouses in PvP. We shouldn't even try to entertain that right now. All right, next up on our list here, Play Dead. This is another one that I don't use. In fact, I don't even have it on the hotbar. You have to put it on a hotkey in order to use it. You're just gonna fall over, lay dead, and pretend that something killed you. This does not work in PvE. Mobs will keep attacking you, so don't even try it there. This is more of a fake out in PvP. Your mileage may vary with it. Try it if you want. This isn't a skill that I personally use at all. I do have it selected because Shais don't require a lot of skill points, so why not take it when you've got the extra points to take it. Next up, we'll look at Sprinkle Sparkle. So this is another one that I don't find myself using very often. I use it occasionally when I'm grouped with other players. This is meant to either restore mana to friendly players or drain mana from enemy players. Really don't find it useful in PvE at all. So this would be right click and a directional, so left or right in here. Has been to drain. It doesn't really give you any appreciable MP back. Like I said, I don't find this particularly useful. I suppose if you're facing someone with a large mana pool in PvP, it might be mildly annoying to them. But as you all know, everyone can pot their way through mana drains. And with fairies auto-using pots, I don't find this to be very useful. Again, I've got it trained because why not? You know, we've got plenty of skill points to do this. Might as well go ahead and grab it. Next up is Out of My Way. This one I do use because this has a nice AP buff on it. It's a plus 10 AP buff for 30 seconds. You have to have full leaves to do this. So you'll need 3 leaves to do this, which of course I don't have right now. So let's go ahead and get those. There we go. Okay, so now I can just hit space. Bam. Oh, you notice it pushes the MP back. So in PvE, it will push mobs back. And it gives you a 10 AP buff for 30 seconds. So this is a nice AP buff to sprinkle in. This will also affect all of your allies around you, giving them a buff as well. Nope, they do need to be in your party. You'll also get super armor from it. Super armor is really not a big deal from this. Shai's taking damage in PvE is almost never a concern, but the AP buff is nice to, you know, mow things down a little faster. All right, then we've got Twirl. So this is one of our bread and butter DPS skills. You'll use this constantly while you're out grinding. This also regens your MP. I have never had an MP problem on a Shai because we use this skill so frequently. It also has a small accuracy boost on it, about 9%. So this is left or right and left mouse button. So here we go like this. All right, holding down the right mouse button and we just dance around our target. Same thing, we can go to the left. And if you notice, we can just hold down the button, the left mouse button. We don't need to, you know, tap it between each skill, and you'll get 3 different variants of it as you dance around. Slightly different versions of the skills. This does take stamina, so watch your stamina as you're dancing through here. Again, this is such a bread and butter skill. You're gonna want to do it all the time. If those of you that played FPS games, you're gonna find this a very comfortable maneuver. It's like doing old school circle strafing around a target. Next up, we've got Gather Round. This is an interesting skill. So this will pull targets to you in PvE. Does nothing in PvP. It has a small amount of damage on it, so the damage isn't enough that you're gonna really see a lot of help from it in PvE, but it is helpful to group mobs that are being stubborn, that don't want to group up, and then you can mow them down easier. That said, where this skill really shines is when you're out life skilling. Let's say you want to go skin or butcher wolves. This will gather those packs of wolves up real easy. Next up, here's another bread and butter skill. This is probably our main source of damage. Twirl we use frequently, but it's not as high a damage source. So 1, 2, 3. This is just hold the right mouse button. Simple as that. In PvE, you're gonna get a pushback on that. In PvP, you won't get a push at all. That's on the first 2 hits that'll do the push. It'll also group the mobs slightly. In PvE, won't happen in PvP at all. It has a slight accuracy buff on it, and it does impart stiffness on your target. So here we'll just hold down the right mouse button. 1, 2, and there's our 3rd hit. You notice the 3rd hit goes all the way around. You will notice if I do this between targets, if I can get lined up here correctly here. Notice this did hit the target behind me as well. So this will do a full area attack around you on that 3rd hit. That can be used nice for a little bit of AoE if you're in the middle of a pack while you're trying to grind. All right, next up, we have Go. So this is using Q or E while you're using 1, 2, and 3. I never use this, guys. I don't know who would ever use this. I don't know what the thought was when the designers added this. I guess it's a cute little gimmick. I would say don't concern yourself with it. Take it because we have way too many skill points to know what to do with. All right, so. And then Q goes off the side, right? So you have to hit the button, then tap your key, right? It's useful to, I guess, redirect your attack, but it cuts short your 1, 2, 3. You only get 1 of the rotation skills. Maybe you could catch somebody off guard with it in PvP. Again, we're not damage dealers in PvP, so I don't know why we'd be doing that. I don't. This is a skill that I just don't use. Don't find it helpful. I don't know why it exists. You just not have that skill and be fine. All right, we'll do this one real quick. Light bag. This is just a really nice Shai perk. It's a passive skill. We gain weight limit carry, so how the amount of stuff we can carry as we level. The only class that has that. All right, hop 3. This is down left mouse button. This is going to do a full attack around us. It will not go behind. The big thing to know about this one is that this does have a DP debuff for the targets you hit. It's a 10% debuff for 10 seconds. If we go ahead and look at this, you can see it rolls around us. So I'll go ahead and stand between here. Give it a couple seconds for the cooldown. You can see I hit targets on both sides of me. There's a small pushback, and they do have a debuff on them, as we can see here, for their DP debuff. To help us mow down our targets just a little bit quicker. All right, next up we have Quick 2. Quick 2 again has a DP debuff on it. This is down and right button. This will give us an evasion boost. It will drop a movement speed and DP reduction on the target that you hit. We'll go ahead and look at this. All right, you see it gives us a little bit of gap. In PvE, it pushes that target back a little bit while you're doing that. That sets us up at the perfect distance to start our 1, 2, 3. And we've got our evasion buff, so we're more difficult to hit. That's another good bread and butter skill. I mix that in mainly to help control my distance between myself and my target when I'm grinding. Like I said, set us up really well for the 1, 2, 3 without risking being hit then. All right, Twirl-Three. This has a DP debuff on it, another 10 second, 10% DP debuff. We have super armor through this. This is shift right mouse button. This is one of your longest reaching attacks that you have. So we'll shift right mouse button. You do a little forward jaunt. And then attack with it. So that I like to do here, I'll be up close. Hit there. 1, 2, 3. Shift right mouse button. We're right in our target. We can smack him if we need to. Jump back out. All right. Next up on our list, we have Eat This. Eat This is an amazing stun in PvP. It's a ranged stun. In PvE, this stun is useless. It doesn't do anything at all. It's just damage. It's left and right mouse button. All right, next up, we have Cheer Up. So this is our E buff. So other classes would usually see this as a damage buff. For us, this is a heal. This is a 200 HP heal every 5 seconds or 60 seconds. All right. So every 5 seconds, we're going to heal for 200 HP, and it's going to last a full minute. It will also apply to anybody that's in your group, up to 10 people. And the best part about this is it has a 1 minute cooldown. So I'll go ahead and toss this here. We've got a 60-second heal going, 200 HP recovery every 5 seconds. But since it's also a 1 minute cooldown, that means you can cast this infinitely, right? You should never be without your HP regen, nor should anyone in your group be without the HP regen, right? So you want to cast this every 60 seconds. This negates a ton of damage. It's a no-brainer. Just make sure you use it. All right, come out, come out. This is a skill for aggroing mobs. We're going to swing our little lantern around, run around. In PvE, this is for aggroing and grouping mobs together. In PvP, this will drop a DP debuff on your players around you. If they're in your group, however, you're going to give them a DP buff, a 10 second plus 10 DP buff. So that looks like this. Notice the little green marks over their heads when they get affected by it. And then if we look at the target, we can see that they've got the DP debuff on them. Next up, we have Get Well. So this is another heal. This one has a 1.5 minute cooldown though. This one you cannot keep up constantly, but you'll want to use it frequently. This is 3 ticks of 700 HP. That's going to give you 2100 HP for over the course of 3 ticks. You earn a total of 2100 HP. That will also heal anyone in your group. In PvE, that's going to push anything around you away. So just remember that when you use this, you're going to push the mobs away from you a little bit. That's helpful at times to get yourself a little bit of space. Now, if you use this as a Black Spirit skill, this is going to give you 500 HP a tick. So that's 200 less per tick, but it's going to do 10 ticks, meaning instead of 2100 HP, you're going to get 5,000 HP. It's also going to give you super armor if you're using the Black Spirit version of the spell. So if we go ahead and take a look at it, this just looks like this. So you can see we pushed a mob away, and we're going to get our heal for that. There's no visible buff for this. You just get the HP back over time for the ticks. All right, next up we have over here. So this is meant as a protective skill. This is defensive. creates a bubble or sphere around you where attacks cannot enter that. So if an attack is coming from outside of this sphere, it cannot get in. If attack is coming from within the sphere, it can still hit you and do damage. You need to be aware of that. This will also protect anyone else that's in this sphere from attacks that are trying to come in from outside it. You're gonna also drop some big debuffs on anyone that's in that circle. So you can either use it as a protection or you can use it as a debuff. The debuffs is going to drop here is 50% attack speed reduction, 50% casting speed reduction, and 50% movement speed reduction. Because this is a really nasty debuff. The debuff aspect of this is going to be far more useful in PvP than PvE. There are times if you're trying to grind an area far above your level and you're really in trouble, this can be used to help that, or you can use it to save a friend who's in a bad situation as well. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. I've got it on the hotbar over here. It's also just Shift Q. So here we are. You can see the green circle and ground. That's the sphere that attacks cannot cross that boundary to come in at you. That's also the area which the debuffs will apply to anyone in that area. All right, so next up, going down the list, now we're getting into some really easy passives here. We've gone over, believe it or not, all the main skills for the Shai at this point. Not a whole lot. It's not too complicated. Shai is really seen, and it seems like Pearl Abyss is now saying, as more of a life skill character than a combat focused character. I find for PvE, the Shai is perfectly fine. It's a very comfortable, relaxed grinder. There's no harm in PvE. Where she falls down is in PvP combat. Don't ever expect to win 1v1s on the Shai. Unless you are significantly overgeared from your target or significantly overleveled, it's just not going to happen. There have been great damage numbers that have come out, especially with this last patch, that prove that we are just not meant to do PvP like that. Okay, next up we have Gathering Whiz. This is very simple. This just gives you extra XP when you're gathering, 1% per level. So it's total of 5% more XP when you're gathering. Nice perk to have. Again, this is leaning towards that life skill focus for the Shai. We've got Joy of Gathering. This is actually an interesting one. You gain combat EXP when you're gathering if you have this on the Shai. So 300% of the XP that you get when you're gathering gets applied to your combat EXP. What makes this even more interesting then is that if you have combat EXP buffs running, the Book of Combat, Cron Field, etc., all those will stack atop of this 300%. So you can actually crank up your combat XP that you get while you're simply out gathering. I've known many of other Shais that level primarily through life skilling, and that's how they'll get their combat level up. Next up, we have Alchemy Whiz. This is the same thing as Gathering Whiz. This just applies for Alchemy instead, so an extra 5% Alchemy. Joy of Alchemy. This is the same thing as Joy of Gathering. It just applies to Alchemy. So when you're doing Alchemy, you get 300% of that XP back as combat EXP as well. All right, grinders, thank you for hanging out with me and going over the Shai skills today. If you have any additional questions, drop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them for you. I hope you found this video helpful. Happy grinding.